Thank you so much for joining us for today. We are thrilled to have you attend this workshop, and we're eager to teach you tips and tricks as you think about your production and how to film your narrative or documentary. My name is Ashley Kreithoff. I am the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for the Institute of Environment and Sustainability at UCLA, and I run the GreenShorts film competition. We hope that you'll submit a short environmental film to the 5th annual GreenShorts competition this year. It's an opportunity for you to share what you care about and your vision for the environment and sustainability. There are many new categories to choose from. Power poetry, for example, is a slam poetry competition where you use your voice to say what matters to you, record yourself, and throw on some B-roll for your audio. There's Wild California, where you can talk about animals, ecosystems, nature, and the nature that's near to you. Climate Trailblazers is a category where you can discuss people or communities leading the charge in environmental activism. Ready, Set, Action is where you can look at the solutions for the environment and sustainability problems. And there are many more. Click on the categories on our website to find some inspiration. I'll put this link in the chat. But to find some inspiration and find the videos from previous winners. Throughout today's lesson, I'll drop some helpful resources that Wendy, Frank, and Angela, and Angela, by the way, is a 2020 GreenShorts finalist, and I'll drop helpful links into the chat that we'll all discuss. I'm really excited about today's class. I worked in film and TV, and the GreenShorts is just so meaningful to me. Feel free to email me anytime. You all should have my email address. And if you have any questions about the festival or filmmaking, don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out. Okay, well, we have some wonderful instructors for you today. Wendy Millett is director of the My Hero International Film Festival, which you are also invited to submit your film to later this year. We have Frank Gutler, a digital storytelling and media arts extraordinaire. And Angela Kim is a high school student whose short film, No More Hunger, No More Waste, was a finalist last year in the GreenShorts Festival. Okay, I think that's it. Wendy is going to take over with pre-production and Angela as well. Then Frank will discuss production and post-production. We have a short break in there for you too. I hope you all are excited about today. I cannot wait to see your films. Okay, thanks guys, and Angela and Wendy, take it away.
All right, hello, welcome. I'm so glad to see so many different people, and imagine that you're from, a lot of you from Southern California, maybe some from Louisiana, and we're excited that you're here today. And I'm Wendy Millett, and I run the film festival for My Hero and also the media arts education program with My Hero. And so myhero.com is the website, and we've been online for over 20 years, 25 years, and the film festival's in its 17th year. So any of the movies that you make will also be eligible for our festival. And so in a few minutes, we really want to focus what we're doing here for you. And so it's really all about you and the movies you want to make. So in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a chance to tell us about your projects. Whatever stage you happen to be at about your project, you're going to have a chance to pitch your project, like an elevator pitch, where you kind of try to give us the theme and the beginning and the middle and the end. So be thinking about that, of what your project that you're thinking of so far is going to be, that's going to be eligible for the GreenShorts and the My Hero International Film Festival. And I just wanted to give you that heads up so that when I tell you a little bit more about My Hero, you can be gathering your thoughts and be prepared to do a little pitch, okay? So about My Hero, I'm going to take the screen for a minute and I'm going to show you, let me get this one page up. So Frank has been an amazing team member here, and he helped us to redesign the media arts portal on My Hero. And so here, there's a whole bunch of free resources, and we've got pre-production, production, post-production, details with story, camera, music videos, sound, mobile, you name it, we cover it. And so whatever kind of movie you're thinking of making, think about utilizing these free resources. I think that Ashley's going to put this link in the chat, and then we'll probably have a whole group of links for you to enjoy later on. But I want to make sure that you find your way to My Hero, media arts resources. Frank has done such an amazing job to really beef these up. There's videos, there's guides, you name it, we've got it. And then the other place is our film festival. So myhero.com Film Festival is another link that I think Ashley will get in the chat. And here you can learn all about the films that, when you're doing films about environmental issues, that's heroism. You know, the people who are out there trying to help our planet, and those are heroes. And so that's why it's such a perfect fit for what we're doing. And so those are the two links I wanted to show you right off the bat. We have a whole bunch of different themes, and there's an ocean award too. So if your film happens to fall into the ocean category, there are prizes available for you for the Sylvia Earle Ocean Conservation Award. So be thinking about as well. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And I also wanted to add another note about Angela, who's going to be presenting in a few minutes. Not only was she a finalist in the GreenShorts, but she won the Emerging Artist Award in our festival this last year. And she found about us from the GreenShorts team. Thank you guys. And then she submitted a number of films to our festival, and we're going to be looking at her film in a few minutes. So we're really lucky to have Angela with us. She's so great. And before we jump to Angela, I am going to show you just a little video about my hero, just to give you a little background about what our project is about.
The My Hero Project uses the power of media and technology to honor the heroes throughout the world who battle daily against ignorance, intolerance, and indifference. Our team works to support thousands of teachers each year who use My Hero's freely accessible digital archive and media resources to enrich learning for millions of students around the world. The My Hero Teachers Room provides standards-aligned lesson plans in creative writing, global studies, English, ESL, art, music, filmmaking, and more. Teachers use My Hero for character education and life skills classes. My Hero provides cross-cultural learning opportunities, an appreciation of diversity, and communication tools to empower young people to affect positive change in the world. Visit the My Hero Project to see how you can become part of this global learning community.
All right. So that gives you a little nutshell about My Hero. It's we've been online for a long time, so I hope you get a chance to explore our site, and I really look forward to seeing the movies that you're going to make. So we're going to start by watching her film, and then we'll let Angela share her perceptions. So let me get on to No More Hunger, No More Waste.
Chew on this. In the United States, 30 to 40% of the food supply turns into waste. That's around 133 billion pounds wasted each year. But while an overwhelming percent of food is wasted, 1 in 6 Americans do not know where their next meal will come from. Many are not aware that a lot of the food that is considered waste isn't actually rotten or expired. So, where does all that leftover food go?
Big corporations, big businesses like Target, for example, I never knew what they do with their returns or with their food that is damaged or that they cannot sell on their shelf. So it's such a humbling experience to know that we get those donated to us first. My name is Chris Kim, and I here at the Second Harvest Food Bank am a food handler and a processor.
Second Harvest is one of 2 very large food banks here in Orange County, and we support 312 pantries and partners out in the community that are actually our frontline partners to make sure that food insecure families in Orange County, food insecure children and seniors are getting food, nutritious food, on literally a daily basis. And we also have a grocery rescue program where we are taking food that is near expiration date or that they're over what the supermarkets need.
And when it arrives through our doors, it is our responsibility as a team at Second Harvest Food Bank to make sure that food is entering our facilities safe.
It is at those distribution centers, whether they're soup kitchens, transitional housing, pantries, that food insecure families in Orange County, and most folks don't know there's almost 300,000 food insecure individuals in this county. That's how they get their supplemental food that comes through Second Harvest.
You hear about how many homeless people are out there that are in need of food, that are struggling, how many college kids are living in their cars on school campuses just to get by, or how many single parents that are living out here paycheck to paycheck trying to provide food for their family or for themselves. And all of that feeling comes from you wanting to help that next person.
You always feel good when you work for the greater good. It's a reminder of reality that not everyone has what many of us have, and that's the economic power to buy food and feed our families. So that is sobering to realize that there is that much inequity and injustice in our society. But the upside is that there are many of us that work to level the playing field and make sure that folks have a fighting chance, and at a real basic level, as we're going through today, that people have food to eat. And you sleep better at night knowing that.
Yay, Angela. Excellent film. So Angela, go ahead and take it. Help us understand how you achieved that wonderful short.
Yeah, I kind of talk over it in my presentation, but I'll just give like a very brief story about how I found this story. So I used to volunteer at the Second Harvest Food Bank during my summer break, and I met Chris, and there I was just so like impacted by his story. All the posters that said like let's erase hunger, and that really inspired me to tell a story about my local food bank and encourage others to also volunteer at this place. So I'll share my screen and kind of walk you guys through how I made this film. All right, can everyone see my screen?
It's awesome. Still loading. Oh, there we are. Yes, I see it.
So there's a table of contents so that you guys can refer back to the slides later. All right, so pre-production. I think that this is the most crucial part of storytelling, because without pre-production, you'll find yourself struggling to piece together what seemed like a good film. So I really would hope that you guys take notes on this part. So my first tip is that story comes first. I told you guys that I found this story a year ago from today, actually, at my local food bank. So how do you guys find stories? Pretty much everyone has a story. Really reach out to everyone, your friends, your family, your teachers, but also consider emailing or calling an organization and read your local newspaper about what's going on. Storytellers always find a story in anything or anyone. My next tip is to always conduct a pre-interview when you're making a documentary. This is a very brief conversation between you and your subject. This will help you find your focus and emotion. I want to note that this is a conversation and not an interview, because you don't want to scare your subject matter away from doing this project. So really keep it like down to earth and build a relationship with your subject matter. So I added a very quick advice corner. So always have a main character. And build a connection and relationship with whoever you make it on. Always research. You don't want to go into your interview without knowing anything about your organization or your person. So know the person so that they're not afraid, or they're not perceiving you as like an unprofessional filmmaker. Again, conduct a pre-interview. My second point is to find your main emotion. Do you want your audience to laugh, cry, or take action? So before you make your film find your main message. And lastly, have a 3-word focus. I always ask myself, if I wanted to tell my story in just 3 words, what would it be? So I want you guys to ask that to yourself. This will encapsulate your purpose of creating it, and it will limit your distraction. So you don't want to stray out and make a whole new documentary about something else. So this will help you stay on your tracks. All right. Logistics really matter. I had a shot list before I created this film, and this really helped me kind of see and visualize what kind of shots I wanted to do. And this was shot right before California went into lockdown, so I really had to be quick on my feet and know what kind of shots I wanted to take, because I really had 1 hour to do everything over there. So what kind of logistics should you guys take care of? You guys need a location, your interviewees, your time, any waivers or forms you need to sign, equipment, and always a shot list or a storyboard. So know your scene before you go to your shoot. Go location scouting, go look around. This will help you on the day of your shoot to really know what kind of shots you want to take, and always be professional. I kind of don't like the word student filmmaker. I think everyone is just a filmmaker. So always be respectful of people's time, and keep your distance, especially now between whoever you're shooting and your camera. All right, so these are some of my shot list to actual cinematography. So I just sketched out what shots I wanted to take, and on the day I knew what kind of shots I wanted to do. All right, Act 2 is production. So this is like, so A roll is your interview, and always have your questions prepared. This image on the left is kind of all the questions I asked my subject matter. You want to have your subject to introduce themselves, their name, job, or mission. You want to ask about personal or emotional questions, like when did you realize you wanted to work here? Why does working here make you feel happy? And then lastly, you want to ask your big picture questions. This will help you relate back to your purpose and your main message. And my second point is to always engage in a short conversation before your interview. Again, you don't want your subject to be really nervous before your interview. It's always good to be really casual and relaxed. And my third point is to listen and don't just hear. You want to always ask follow-up questions, but don't be like a robot that spews questions. You want to make this into like a conversation. Just pretend that the camera isn't there. You're really just talking to someone else. All right, so my tip for B-roll is to shoot for the edit. This basically is a technique used to aid post-production. And as a filmmaker, you'll need to keep the editing process in mind while shooting footage. So you just don't want to go into the shoot covering everything, because on the day of your edit, you're gonna look through like hours of footage. So by doing this, you're enabling yourself to make the editing process that much easier. Again, be quick on your feet, know which shots you're gonna take, use sequencing, have like a wide shot, medium shot, close up, and always show, don't tell. And you always want to back up your interview with like supporting images. Okay, post-production. You guys should stop after you guys shoot everything. I think this is the most important step. I never go into the editing process like immediately after I shoot everything. So because it's like always so tempting to get straight into editing, but to save time, you guys should transcribe your interview, highlight which parts you want to do, or put in your documentary, and always make a structure, your beginning, middle, and end, and sift through your B-roll. This will save so much time. I went from having 200 clips to only 80 good ones. So this will help you guys. Okay, some common mistakes are continuity errors. So someone might be like grabbing something off the shelf, but then after they're sitting down. So you want your whoever you're shooting to have like that like flow, because it will impact your audience too. No music or music that's too loud. No natural sounds. Natural sounds are really important because you want to because humans have 5 senses and film only allows 2. So if you're missing one of them, it's kind of like it's like depriving your audience of like real life. Flashy fonts, transitions, again, this ties into like professionality. You want to be really professional in your editing. So flashy fonts or transitions are kind of distracting. Again, no sequencing. You want to have your clips flow. So what are some tips on transitions? Don't make them tacky. Sometimes no transition is the best transition. So you want to go from one clip to another instead of like putting some kind of like rotation or like dissolve. What are some tips on coloring? Coloring makes a huge difference in your production quality because you don't want to use raw footage that's like really flat and it just seems all gray and desaturated. Colors also convey emotion. So if you want to tell like a dark story, then you might want to like tone down the exposure or the highlights. If you want to tell a bright story, maybe up the exposure and the highlights. What are some tips on sound design? Again, don't make them tacky. Don't forget them too. People will catch on to audio errors more than video errors. You don't want them to like be too loud or just not have any sound design either. All right, so I have some free resources for you guys, and that includes my sample interview questions, my shot list. For production, I have a storyboard, and for post-production, I included a full transcription of Chris and Claudia's interviews, and I have my script. So after this interview, this presentation, Ashley will put all the links in the chat so you guys can refer to them after.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Frank Gutler. I've been a media arts educator, both K-12 through college for close to 20 years now. And it's my pleasure and honor to be with you guys today. Today, I want to take you through the good, the bad, and the ugly of looking at the process of production. We're going to look at 3 cycles of improvement of a similar story to the type of stories that you're looking to produce here in this workshop. Stories that persuade people to act. So yeah, I know we're short on time, so let's get into it. So over the years, in talking with educators and students and filmmakers, I struggled to trying to figure out the best way of kind of helping people understand the process of filmmaking and giving it to them in a way that they're able to look at the work that they're creating, and even giving good feedback to other people's work. And so the acronym SCALE is what I've been using for many years. And SCALE stands for story, camera, audio, light, and editing. And so today we're going to look at all of what that means. So just kind of quickly here, story. Angela did a terrific job of talking about why story is important. The beginning, the middle, and the end, especially when you want to establish an issue, a character's problems being encountered, and then those problems being addressed, equilibrium being created at the end of the story. That's what the best stories do. Camera, remember your camera is your audience's view to your project. So scaled up projects will be mindful of your camera composition. The shots you are recording are the best quality possible for the story that you are telling. Audio, again, as Angela so expertly put on the table today, you're only dealing with things that you can see and things that you can hear when you're working in this medium. So please pay attention to how your video sounds. It is essential. It's 50% of the senses that you can bring your audience along with. Light is also very important, and it just goes to this idea that the human senses do a really good job of kind of doing the Photoshop, doing the color correction as you are looking at the world, but your camera does not have that ability. So it's important to really look at what you are filming, not what you think you are filming, especially with light. And editing, that's where all of these pieces come together. And during the writing process, where you write and rewrite, get feedback, write again, that process does not conclude when you start filming. Actually, editing is the final rewrite of your project. And in scaled up projects, the pieces fit best when there's a smooth flow of action between shots, and the things that you hear, the dialogue, music, and effects are all mixed together at appropriate levels. So appropriate and so well mixed, you don't notice how well mixed they are until they are not well mixed, and you are distracted by that rather than understanding the story that you are being told. So the public service announcement, these are stories that are produced in the public interest, and it kind of circles around the kind of work that we're looking to do in this workshop. So, but the good news for you guys is it's an easily understood format to inform and persuade. These things are short, 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And if you pick up the formula for this, the structure for this now, you can apply this to telling stories to inform on any subject or topic. And they do require probably the most basic production skills. And so, of course, the first thing you have to do your research. I'm going to take you through a project on animal abuse and promoting adoption that I was involved with a few years ago as a cooperative project between the ASPCA and Palm Springs High School, where a number of students there were challenged to create a PSA on this topic. The issue is, once you start doing that research, there is just a tsunami of topics and data, which you can easily kind of fall down the rabbit hole and be talking more about that than an actual story. But this statistic came up in a lot of the research, and it stands as a good hook to get people to understand what the scope of the problem is. But you'll see that in this example where there is not a lot of writing and not a lot of storytelling, this fact seems to be the thing that's kind of pushing everything forward. So this is the first version of a basic PSA, and it's Well, it's not good, but let's look at it and be thinking about that. Does it have story? What can we say about the camera? Is the audio good? Is there enough light? Is the pieces come together in the editing process? And so let's have a look.
What do you think we should do to stop animal abuse?
Well, let everyone know not to abuse their pets and to treat them with love and respect.
Way worse punishment for the offenders. That goes without saying.
People shouldn't do that. I love dogs. They're so cute. You should be nice to them.
Animals like this are abused every day. The most commonly abused animals are domestic pets.
So yes, that is so awful. It's entirely almost impossible to talk about just how awful it is, but let's give it a try. So my friends, you're out there. What can we say is working or is not working about this, specifically about stories? Anybody out there want to kind of put a pin in whether this thing has a story or not? I mean, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you like. Thank you. All right, so this actually puts into focus this idea of the PSA storytelling problem, whether you are telling a story or just kind of doing a report. I remember PSAs are set to highlight a problem or inform and advocate for change, but this one just barely gets past the facts and figures and certainly wasn't really well written. I think we can all agree on that. But what else? Yeah, so these stories really should personalize large problems by telling individual stories that feed into the larger narrative. Terrific PSA should always include a valid resource for more information and an authentic call to action. We're shining a light on an issue. Here's a story about it, and here's what you can do about it. All right, camera. All right, so we saw 3 specific shots using a live camera that each of these have serious problems, but you can see that in general, with your camera, you want to avoid shots of the subject who are in the center of the shot. You want to avoid shaky handheld shots. Keep an eye on your backgrounds, folks. Visual clutter, unexplained people in an ugly environment. They distract your audience, not help them understand your story. Bad framing, you cut off the top of your subject's heads. And we see this a lot is if you're shooting on a mobile device, you are shooting like this instead of this, and that gives you a shot that only occupies 1/3 of your frame, and that's 2/3 that you are throwing away. Instead, you want to try using a tripod for a steady image. You want to compose basic medium and close-up shots often, and I'll talk what the rule of thirds means in a moment. And again, turn your mobile device to the side. Audio. This has got really bad audio. It's recorded in a noisy environment with onboard camera microphones. And you may have noticed that the music that was applied to it is one of those standard jingles that came with iMovie in this case, and you want to avoid that. This specific project has links to many free resources to customize your soundtrack. So we would really appreciate, you probably would appreciate having those resources. Also, avoid mixing styles of music and watch the levels of your audio as you're recording your voice.
Let everyone know not to abuse their pets and to treat them with love and respect.
That's really hard to hear. I know you guys can barely hear it too, but the human ear can only go so far in filtering out that stuff in the background. So external microphones are terrific if you can afford them, if you can access them. If you're using your onboard microphone, move that closer to your subject. The music you use should be sparing and should maintain the tone of your project. And recording your narration in a quiet environment with a clear narration at proper levels. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Okay, the light in this, dark locations, strong overhead lighting creates ugly shadows on your subject. Harsh outside light, if you are not using the autofocus or auto exposure on your device, can create a blown out image. And you'll want to avoid shooting through open windows or open doors, because all the light will fall into it and you'll create a backlit image of your subject. It's not very pretty. So here we go. To work with light, work with what you have. You can use a bounce card. If you don't have a fancy reflector, you can take a piece of foam core here. This is $2 or $3 at my drugstore in the office section. And you just point this thing opposite your key light or your main source of light. And this will cost you almost nothing. And it will create many, many, many much better shots. The autofocus and exposure on your mobile device or your program camera settings, please explore those. They will create much better shots, and always just be aware of the general environment that you're in. Always look for ways to using existing light, practical light at your location to your best advantage. Okay, the editing. All right, guys. There is, overuse and misuse of transitions and effects. Angela talked a little bit about this. Simpler the better. Fancy transitions, they might be cool to look at, but they will distract your audience. Transitions are like punctuation. Okay, and think of it like you can compress time or speed up time or give the audience the impression that time is passing, or you've created another chapter in your story just with the transitions that you're using. Let's see, so be mindful of that. You also want to make sure that your images are clean, which is to say we're seeing very highly pixelated images here that are kind of cropped. They look bad. Title cards and other elements, as you see here, are thematically not consistent with the theme of the story that we're trying to tell here. Again, they distract. And then most editing software will put a random pan and scan movement on still images, but we'll talk a little bit later about how to get control of that effect and learn a little bit more what the Ken Burns effect is and the man behind it. But you can see here all of these choices, all of what you see are editing decisions that you make when you are not letting your editing software do whatever your editing software is defaulting to do. But the effect can be a visually confusing piece. But let's talk about downloading and finding the right images for your project. Images that are small image resolution can be anywhere from a small image, which is 200 or 300 by 400 or 500. That is small. When you blow it up to a full screen, it gets pixelated, it gets blurry. So always be mindful when you are doing an image search, even something like in Google, when you're doing a Google search, there are tools that you can filter out small, medium, or large images. And you can see here that there are the numbers at the bottom of each of these images tell you how large that image is. And you want to get as large an image as you can. And because that affects the type of project you're able to export at the end of the process. For instance, like we see here, if you begin a project, say on iMovie, using smaller sized images, that limits the size of your final project. So if you have a final project that is using 640 by 360 images throughout it, once you try to export it in a larger resolution, higher resolution like 1080, it either won't let you, or your project will be too big for the images that you've created. So try and keep consistency with the image sizes and the resolution for your projects. So like I said, the editing, just simple guidelines, simple transitions like the cuts, which you don't have to do anything to do, or dissolves are probably what you want to stick with. Those larger images and graphics early on to avoid pixelation in the edit. And the Ken Burns effect, which can visually narrate the images with smooth and purposeful camera moves, motion moves from one part of your image to another. And you want to keep those texts, if you're using them, on your screen long enough so that the viewer can at least read them twice. That's a good rule of thumb. Let's talk about the Ken Burns effect for a second. If you are running iMovie or any of the Apple products, the Ken Burns effect is a process, is an effect that will allow you to move your camera across the image. It's called the Ken Burns effect because he's an American documentary filmmaker, and it began as part of his style to work with images, moving a camera across an image. And Apple Computer contacted him when they were about to launch the first iMovie and said, we've got this tool that we can do it, and we want to name it after you. And that's who Ken Burns is, and that's why it's called the Ken Burns effect. I know we're running short on time. I had a little video clip of him that talks about his styles, but I'm just going to go straight to this. When
you have about a half hour.
Oh, so okay.
You have about you have about a half hour.
Then this is Ken Burns talking about his elements of style. And he talks about it in terms of these are ingredients that every filmmaker bake into their cake, but style is how an individual filmmaker uses those ingredients.
And essentially, we have 8 elements: 4 visual, 4 oral. We have visually live cinematography, old photographs, interviews, and footage. Orally, we have the third-person narrator, the voice of God, first-person voices, music, and sound effects. And each film uses these in different quantities. To me, they are totally different. But like an exhibition of paintings by Cézanne, when you step back from them and survey, there's a similarity. And so this is where there's a sense of the same kind of style, but style is good. Style is the authentic application.
Style is the authentic application of all the techniques that we have at our disposal. So my take on pre-production is to be thinking of everything in 2 columns, video and audio. On one side is what you see, the other side is what you hear. These are like Angela said, these are the only senses that we can play with when we're making films. So the video is the stuff that you shoot. Archival photos and video are the things that you find and research, and then interviews. On the audio side, we call this the third-person narrator, the voice of God. So that is your voice giving voice to this issue if you're doing a PSA or something like that. First-person voices are your interview subjects, and then you have music and sound effects. So these are the ingredients that have that most of these films have in common. And how you are going to mix them is what we're trying to do today to try and get you guys to be thinking about what your story is going to look like once you've imagined your story. Here's an example of the visual narration with the Ken Burns effect. So this is from a documentary that I worked with. It was parents for a Manzanar internees. And so you have 2 choices. You can go with when you import a still image, iMovie is going to put some kind of effect on it, and it may be super random. But the choices you make is, in the original version, you can push into the sign that says Manzanar War Relocation Center to identify the location. Or you can say to yourself, well, that sign is pretty big. Why don't I start on the sign and then push out to show what the environment looks like? Okay, I'm not sure which one is more visually effective. That is, again, your choice as a filmmaker. Don't let the program make that choice for you. Here's another example of what I'm talking about. So the Ken Burns effect did just a basic kind of pan up on this tower, start from low and went high. I didn't care for that. I thought, wouldn't it be better to, instead of going down and up, everybody knows that a tower is tall, but instead, why not start from one end of the frame to the other and show the relative isolation of the internment camp as an example. So I'm going to show you guys what can be done to fix up this original basic PSA with a slower text crawl. We changed the text and the effect. The spelling and grammar errors were corrected. The vertically cropped image from the iPhone being replaced, so the pixelated images and the graphics are legible and relevant to the message. Here's what that looks like.
What do you think we should do to stop animal abuse?
Well, let everyone know not to abuse their pets and to treat them with love and respect.
Way worse.
Okay, yeah, I just truncated that. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but you can already tell the music was more appropriate. The titles were, although thematically still off, you could read them. We fixed the errors, and so it's better, but it still needs work. Let's scale up this project, and I think this actually might be a good time to just take a little break. All right, we're back. So let's scale up this PSA. You know, what you saw was done very quickly, probably in the course of a single class period with, I'm sorry to say, minimal research, except for finding that factoid. And that was like one of the first thing that comes up on Google. And so the biggest issue was, I always thought, and it seems pretty clear, is that there was no story to this. There was certainly no beginning, middle, and end. There was no resource or a call to action. And so what you had was you have the factoid, but it didn't have a story. So back to this problem that I talked about earlier, people fall into the mistake or the trap of making a report. You know, simply, here's the minimal research I did, and let those facts and figures somehow spur you to action. When the most direct route to doing the kind of work that we're looking to do here is to, like I said earlier, is let the single story, let the individual story stand in for the larger issue. So it's not even a metaphor. It's personalizing the effect of the issue at hand, as opposed to bombarding an audience with the data. It's important to have data, but to act on data, you need a story. So this time we're going to see an intermediate version of this PSA that is beginning to add a story element to it. Again, we're still within the bounds of the classroom, and we are still seeing some technical issues, but we are beginning to see the beginnings of a story tease out.
The Humane Society estimates that nearly 1 million animals are abused or killed each year, and the vast majority of abused animals are domesticated dogs.
Jeffrey was a rescue animal who was severely abused before I adopted him. He was hungry, skinny, and afraid of everything for a while. He's such a lover now. I can't imagine why anyone would have wanted to hurt him. I just don't get why people hurt innocent animals.
Organizations like the ASPCA rescues, cares for, and offers for adoption formerly abused animals nationwide and advocates for tougher laws against animal cruelty.
I know it's against the law to hurt an animal, but it's not right and it's still happening. It's like hurting the member of a family. I think that the law should be changed to make penalties harsher for torturing pets.
43 out of 50 states have laws that make animal cruelty a felony. California leads the nation by enacting the strictest laws punishing abuse of, cruelty towards, or neglect of animals.
All the laws in the world won't help the abused or neglected animals if the abuse continues to go unreported. So please.
Please, if you see or hear of an abused or neglected animal, tell someone. You may be saving your new best friend.
For more information on where to report incidents of animal abuse or cruelty, or to learn about the adoption events in your area, contact the ASPCA, the Humane Society, or your local shelter.
So guys, what we have there is our first stab at a story, introducing the abused pet who was adopted. We hear, and we hear the personal touch. But let's kind of compare the camera angles that we had just seen over the last 2 iterations. What's working and what's not. The first time we saw this high-angled centered shot with lots of visual clutter in the background, again, these unexplained people, as opposed to what we see on the right, we see an eye-level medium shot. And I put this red tic-tac-toe board. Someone's got their microphone open. So we see this red tic-tac-toe board, and that is the rule of thirds guidelines. And if you're using an Apple device, there is a setting in settings that will enable you to put these lines onto your camera, so your viewfinder, so that you will see, use it as a guide to line up, compose your shots. And what you're looking for is not to center your subject. You're looking to put them like their eyes where these lines meet. That gives you a little bit more background space to include other elements, or just it creates a much more balanced look. You can just look at any television or anything, any movies, and you'll start to see that most shots that you see are composed using the rule of thirds. Again, with our exterior shots, again, an ugly centered medium shot with the head cut off. There was lots of stuff happening in the background, as opposed to a nice medium wide shot outside using the rule of thirds that showcases the location. So if you are beginning a project, this would be an excellent shot to say, I'm outside a compost recycling plant, or I'm outside a place where a water treatment place. This is a really good kind of way to introduce a location and a subject. But you can already see the difference in the way these camera shots help you not distract you from hearing the story. And here is another thing, guys. Again, the vertical portrait mode of video shooting is, it may fill up your screen when you are shooting it, but when you are watching it in landscape mode, you will create a shot that in the middle of your video that has 2/3 of it in black. And when you try to crop that image, you will end up with an image that's lower quality because you are just using a small section of it. So hold your camera on the side so the image is wide. And of course, always be mindful of the composition with rule of thirds. So here's the difference between a noisy environment and an onboard camera.
Well, let everyone know not to abuse their pets and to treat them with love and respect.
And here's an example of an exterior microphone, a much quieter location and a lot less visual, a lot less sound chatter in the background.
He's such a lover now. I can't imagine why anyone would have wanted to hurt him.
Now, again, if you do not have an external microphone, that's okay. The other two things you can do is move your camera closer to your subject and choose a location that is quieter. And always, you can always ask, the people in your location to help you out and be quiet for a little while. So those differences, I think, are night and day, but it's the kind of night and day difference that will make the difference between something that looks like you put in the time and something that gives honor to your viewer, that you put the time to speak in clear visual language. What else? Oh yes, the exterior microphones. It's the same thing.
That goes without saying.
I mean, you can raise that as high as you can in your editing software, but it's still going to degrade because it's noisy. There's exterior sound, not the good kind of exterior sound that Angela talked about that gives you the audio sense of the location. It's just plain distracting. Again, this other example, this is an exterior microphone, but still in a windy atmosphere, in a windy location. So you can really, again, hear the difference.
I know it's against the law to hurt an animal, but it's not right and it's still happening. It's like hurting the member of a family. I think that the law should be changed to make penalties harsher.
So yes, and there was some background noise reduction. If your editing software does have that option, again, use it sparingly. It's always best to get this stuff. On location at the time than to fix it in post. So this next thing, the audio, the voiceover, their narration. This is really important, guys, because what we're talking about here, if you're creating a story that is about persuading people, the power of your voice needs to convey that urgency. And so it's the power of your voice versus the power of text. And when Miss Angela said, you should show, not tell, that's really important. The most boring thing that you can do in trying to tell a story like this is to put white text on a black background that has some sort of information or a story point, where you really want to show them, not tell them. The other thing you want to do is develop your authentic voice. And that is the difference between taking a script and just reading the words. So that's personality and performance versus withdrawal and recitation. So you may remember this.
What do you think we should do to stop animal abuse?
Is anyone going to be convinced by that? In case you're wondering, the answer is no. But instead, you could do this.
The Humane Society estimates that nearly 1 million animals are abused or killed each year, and the vast majority of abused animals are domesticated dogs.
So if you are using your voice to convey the urgency, the importance of your message, you are helping your story. If your voice conveys boredom and disconnection from the content, you're not helping your story, because your audience is thinking, oh, well, even the narrator is bored by this. So just take that moment and develop your authentic voice as it relates to convincing an audience that of an issue, telling them a story, illuminating an issue, and calling to action. Music, yes, I talked about this a little while ago. You want to avoid all of the tracks that came with your editing software, because most likely somebody has used it 1,000 times. especially if it's that first one. If it's those first like 7 jingles that came with iMovie, please try something else. And to help you with that, we do, this project page has a good long list of royalty-free music sites, which will be able to help you set the audio tone, set the tone of your piece, and you won't have to worry about somebody hearing it 1,000 times. Use your music sparingly and maintain a thematic style and stick with it. I can't even handle it. I'm so sick of hearing but this one came from a sound service. I think it was Incomptech that we do have the link for you. You know, that one's tough. Let's move on. Okay, light. Once again, the light that you feed your camera is what is going to make the 50% of your piece worth watching. Again, the difference here is the one on the oops, I backed up. The one on the left. There we go. Very dark interior, strong overhead fluorescent lights, which is one of the worst lights that you can shoot video with. It's a dark corner of the room that her face is heavily shadowed. Here on the right, we did have a regular bounce card, a reflective bounce card, but once again, a white piece of rigid foam core. Everyone should have one of these in their kits. You don't have to plug it in. It doesn't get warm, and it does wonders in evening out things like shadows on your subject if you only have one primary light source, like the sun, for instance. Same issue here. You can see the difference. This is the issue on the shot on the right. We did 2 things. We just made sure that the exposure lock was set on our device. This was actually shot on an iPad, actually. The exposure lock was set on the device, and we did have a bounce card to even out the strong key light, which was the sun. You place it opposite the sun, and you get less shadowing. So let's review how you can make light work for you without having to plug anything in. The bounce card or reflectors will even out the shadows of your primary light source. Check your devices, explore the focus and exposure lock on your devices, either your mobile device or the program settings on your camera if you're using a proper DSLR. And again, always be aware of where the sun is in relations to what you're shooting. You may often have to plan what time of day you're going to shoot to get the kind of light that you're looking for.
Get 5-minute call, Frank.
Okay, moving on. Okay, transitions. Transitions are like punctuation, okay? So you have to use transitions sparingly. Use them as you need them to tell the story. If you're going between shots that are similar, you can use a transition, a cross-dissolve transition. But do not use the zooms, do not use the irises, do not use the mosaics. Those things just look awful and they have no place in modern storytelling. Okay, so things with our text and our titles, always be thinking if the choices that I'm making in my text and my titles are helping me to tell my story, or are we distracting my audience? Same thing with still images and graphics, guys. Do not ask your audience to make sense of a pie chart like this with that weird Ken Burns effect. You don't know what to look at. Use these things so that, like the Ken Burns effect, you have a point A and a point B. Move your camera slowly and make sure that your graphics and your text are there long enough to read them or get a sense of what they mean. Okay, try not to use in your editing, try not to use kind of the bundled cutesy graphics, theme packages. those Ken Burns effects, should visually narrate, should say, I want to go from point A to point B. They should always fill the screen. You should not have the kind of black bars that you get when that image kind of wanders off the frame like you see there. So let's look at then the intermediate enhanced PSA here. The music and narration do not overpower each other. We simplify the edit and the enhancements. We replace the pixelated images. And so this is where we got still inside the bounds of a school.
The Humane Society estimates that nearly 1 million animals are abused or killed each year, and the vast majority of abused animals are domesticated dogs.
Guys, I'm sorry, just to kind of move things along, I want to just kind of jump to where you guys want to be with your project. So to improve your storytelling, go into the community if you can, go to the places, get interviews, do cooperations with organizations and agencies that are working in your working on your topic, and that way you can do things like get extra B-roll in their locations, authoritative interviews. And all right, 2-column scripts. This actually had a script. This is what a 2-column script looks like when you are breaking things down by what you see and what you hear. And so we do have several templates for you. Angela gave you one. There are a number on the project website. So that's the easiest advice I can give you guys, is always be thinking about what you see and what you hear and how to plan for it.
It's hard to imagine what Jeffrey went through before I adopted him. His previous owner had kept him chained up outside for days, maybe even weeks at a time. When he was rescued, his fur was a matted mess, and his collar had cut deep into his skin.
Nearly 1 million animals are abused or killed each year, and a majority of those are domesticated dogs. We assist the City of Palm Springs with animal cruelty investigations. We have taken in several hoarding cases over the last couple of years. In addition to taking care of the animals, we offer low-cost adoption programs. We have spay and neuter programs.
Jeffrey's such a gift. He's so full of love and life. I'm so grateful that he was rescued and is a part of my family. That wouldn't be possible unless someone had made the call that saved his life.
California has some of the most strict animal cruelty laws in place, but all the laws in the world will not help abused and neglected animals if the abuse goes unreported. So please.
Please, if you see or hear of an abused or neglected animal, call. You may be saving your new best friend.
For more information on where to report incidents of animal abuse or cruelty, or to learn about the adoption events in your area, contact the ASPCA, the Humane Society, or your local shelter.
It's hard to imagine what Jeffrey went through before I adopted him. His previous owner had kept him chained up outside for days, maybe even weeks at a time.
This is just an example of what
when he was rescued, his fur was a matted mess, and his collar had cut deep into his skin.
Project.
Nearly 1 million animals are abused or killed each year, and a majority of those are domesticated dogs.
So I think, friends, let me just double check where I was. Yeah, so that is more or less how you get from just a basic PSA that doesn't tell a story, that has minimal camera work, sloppy audio that you can easily just mindfully take care of, make better. You need to be thinking about the light that you're using and all of the decisions that you need to make for your final project. The last thing I'd like to share with you guys is we are in COVID times. So I'm not sure how much access you guys have to film production resources, plenty of resources, but guidelines for film production. You can go ahead and grab the URL for, this is LA County Office of Public Health's current guidelines for music, television, and film production. Let's just leave that up for just a second. But again, social distancing, face coverings, frequent hand washing, it's kind of the same for everyone, but please be mindful of these things. That was Project Scale Up. It's been my honor and pleasure to speak with you guys today and share some of the resources and the tips and tricks to help make your videos and the stories that you want to tell as impactful as possible. So thank you, keep practicing, and tell your story that changes the world. And I've been Frank Gutler. Thank you.
If you are going to do a Zoom review, that to ask your talent to also record themselves with their cell phone and get another quality, better quality in addition to the Zoom, because it is limited in its ability to record high quality. But it's still a great answer to the problem of being in COVID times. So consider that. I don't know if anyone wanted to add to the.
I have a quick hack.
Yeah.
I have a quick hack I'd like to share. I know that putting money out for peripheral equipment, I said it's great to have tripods and things, but sometimes you just don't. And sometimes you need to work fast. And sometimes putting your camera phone up against a glass just doesn't do it for you. So here's a quick hack that you guys can do to make a quick and easy tripod stabilizer. So I'm going to start with a blue Solo cup here. And you can see that I've kind of used a Sharpie marker to draw out a little notch here at the bottom. And then I took an X-Acto blade and I cut that notch out. And you can make it just deep enough so you can hold your phone there, put it down on the table, and you can do your interview, creating a nice, stable image. Thank you, Angela. Thank you. If you don't have a Solo cup, use a coffee cup. It works too. Some of the larger ones, I think you put an iPad in. So there really is no reason, did I say no reason? I mean, no reason for you guys not to be able to create a shot with your device that is stable, that is locked down, is stable, it is not crooked, and certainly isn't moving all over the place. It's not that hard. All right, so
Very
Solo
cool.
cups, that's the way to go. Solo tripods. That's my
and then
that's the
also
hack for the day.
for final wraps too, I really admire the projects that you all are thinking about. The one about the firemen, very powerful. Your parrot saving the world, I think that's a lovely idea. The cluttered room metaphor to the polluted world is, I can't wait to see what you can come up with that. I mean, these ideas are all so creative and unique. The activists seeking a voice that's unique. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you develop that concept. And then the water scarcity documentary, that's such a vitally important issue. So all of your ideas are really brilliant and really important. And we are here for you. So make sure that you copy our emails and reach out to us as you get your beginning, middle, and end of your script. We'll give you feedback. We will, if you get some shots you want us to look at or a rough cut, we're here for you, and we'd love to help you develop these projects into really strong short films. So don't forget to submit to GreenShorts, to the My Hero Film Festival. And also we have a partner that Ashley will share, New Roads has an environmental film festival as well. So there's 3 festivals that you will have a door into right away once you finish your film. So Ashley will be following up with an email with lots of these links we've all talked about. But thank you all for coming. It's been really lovely to hear your project ideas.